We're talking with the president of the Cuban National Assembly. We're talking to Ricardo Alarcón. He is in Havana right now, has already met with the Cuban president, Fidel Castro, after surgery, and has spoken with him yesterday as well. I wanted to get your response, Ricardo Alarcón, to White House spokesperson Tony Snow, who yesterday dismissed Raul Castro's leadership and said the U.S. government will not be reaching out to him.
The one thing that this president has talked about from the very beginning is his hope for the Cuban people finally to enjoy the fruits of freedom and democracy, and for the dictator, Fidel Castro, to hand off power to his brother who's been prison keeper is not a change in that status. So Raul Castro's attempt to impose himself on the Cuban people is much the same as what his brother did. So no, there are no plans to reach out. The one thing we want to do is continue to assure the people of Cuba that we stand ready to help.
That's Tony Snow, White House spokesperson. Your response, Ricardo Alarcón.
Well, let me tell you that the disappearance or change of personalities in the Cuban government, which is a matter exclusively that belongs to us, we are an independent country, has become a very serious security issue for us. Remember that the U.S. government in the year 2004 approved a program that President Bush said that was going to be seriously implemented to not to permit precisely that in Cuba is the moment would appear. A few weeks ago, on July the 10th, President Bush approved the last report of a so-called commission to assist free Cuba. That means a clear plan of intervention in another country. And this program, this last report, it begins with a chapter with the title, Hastening the End of the Castro Regime. It's not something waiting for to help, quote-unquote, the Cuban people in the future. It's a plan to hasten the end of our government, and begins with a phrase that should concern Americans a lot, saying that that report is just the unclassified part of something else. They said that they have additional measures that remain classified, in other words, secret. What means that? Are they going to announce, or are they announcing a new military adventures abroad? Are Americans really prepared to, after having gone to war in Iraq, out of lies and distortion by all those same Fox people like Mr. Snow, are they prepared now to go to another war just because Mr. Snow or Mr. Bush do not like the kind of government that we have down here in Cuba? I don't like the U.S. government, to be very frank, but that doesn't give me any right to have plans, secret or otherwise, to change the way the American system operates. I think that's a very dangerous approach. That's why we said that in our communique. Fidel repeated that yesterday, by the way, in a second letter that was made public here in Cuba, that this issue, this matter, that should be very, in a way, legally speaking, technically speaking, a rather simple matter, the substitution of a president by the vice president and so on and so forth, according to the constitution and the laws of a particular country. And it's an imperial approach that I think is a little bit outdated. The U.S. at this moment is not prepared, really, seriously, to entertain more wars and so on and so forth. That's why they have issued on July the 10th this last report but the most important part of it remains secret. On our part, of course, we will do our best to defeat all those plans, those announced and those that remain secret. We have a long experience in fighting and resisting U.S. attempts to undermine our independence and to defeat our sovereignty.
Ricardo Alarcón, you mentioned that in your discussions with President Castro after his surgery that you discussed to some extent the situation in Lebanon. Could you share with us some of his thoughts about that, and also how the Cuban government is viewing the situation, the escalating battles going on in the Middle East right now?
Well, we are really very, very concerned about the situation. We have condemned the violation of Lebanese sovereignty and the attacks on Lebanon or the attacks on Gaza, and we are concerned that the situation as it appears is leading towards an enlargement, an extension of the war. The last news I saw, the Israeli troops may be approaching the Syrian border. It's something that should provoke some international action to stop that. I think that we believe strongly that the very first issue, we agree with that, on that with the Lebanese government, is to stop the fighting immediately. Many people are dying, on both sides, mostly civilians, and that's the result of a senseless policy of violence and aggression that must be ended right away.
Does the president, does Fidel Castro have a relationship with either the Iranian leadership or the Syrian leadership? And before his illness, was he communicating with them, if he does?
Well, we have, it's not a secret, we have a very friendly relation with both Syria and Iran, also with the Lebanese Republic. As a matter of fact, part of our population comes from that background, the Lebanese, Christian Lebanese that emigrated to this part of the world. That's why it's an issue that touched us very directly, I would say. And we understand that they are also concerned, and they are, as many people around the world. Remember that if we don't have yet a ceasefire, it's only because of the U.S. and Israeli opposition. Even Europe, practically everybody has been demanding for that, but you have again the UN Security Council paralyzed due to the successful efforts of Mr. Bolton and the U.S. delegation.
I'd like to ask you, in terms of the current situation in Latin America, obviously a lot has changed over the years as U.S. administrations have continued to support the embargo or to lead their sole embargo against Cuba in Latin America. And do you think that in the current climate of the more popular governments that have come to power in many countries in Latin America, that the United States would dare to try to intervene directly in Cuba?
I think that at this moment, in the current administration that you are enjoying from Washington, there are people that are thinking if they could, they would even intervene militarily. That's why they went that far in the 2004 program adopted by Mr. Bush, and in the last report. The problem is that I do not see how could anybody rationally in the U.S. consider the possibility